What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co host, Jeff Santa. Today, we're bringing you some breaking news out of the Browns camp. Tight end David Njoku has been franchise tagged by the team, which will be giving him 10.8 million about in terms of his contract for this year, and what could have a lot of outline, standards to them and kind of meetings in terms of who might be on this roster come next year and who might not be. So, Jeff, all that being said, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think this is interesting that this is the first franchise tag of the I don't know what they call it, the new like the new NFL season, new NFL calendar year. So it seemed like something Barry was pretty set on, and the front office, along with I would assume Kevin Stefanski, was on board, with. So it's something that came quickly, and they didn't really think about it too much.
Yeah, and it's honestly very interesting when you get into the whole usage of the tight ends for this Browns team for Kevin Stefanski in particular. Obviously, David Njoku has been here his entire career, and it's going to stay that way as of for now. But the more interesting talking point about this is his side part, Austin Hooper, who Jeff, you and I have sent numerous messages back and forth to one another about our feelings over Austin Hooper and what might happen to him, with Njoku getting this franchise tag. So, what are your thoughts going into this?
Well, you know me. I'm gonna get it in, and I'm gonna. It's been a while since we've done Brown stuff, so I haven't been able to publicly knock on Baker Mayfield, which is it's a tight end video. But
Yeah.
here's what I'm thinking about, and he was an alternate. Both of Austin Hooper's Pro Bowl appearances were alternate appearances,
Hmm.
but if Austin Hooper is likely to be out, obviously we had the Odell Beckham situation last season, and right now it doesn't look 100% in any way that Jarvis Landry, will be on the roster. I think there's definitely some questions there, depending on what he said on social media, what we've said in response. But if Austin Hooper is cut and if Jarvis Landry is cut, that's three Pro Bowlers that the Browns have brought in that Baker Mayfield has not been able to play at an extremely high level with on a consistent basis. I think that the argument is that Hooper was kind of a bust signing for us. I would agree. But when you look at when we really did get that deal done with him, it was like I'm pretty sure Njoku, had a terrible season for one, and he was also might have been injured. So I think that move was necessary in the moment, and that was just another. That's a Cleveland thing. We have to overpay someone to come to Cleveland, and obviously, there's other factors, him coming from Atlanta, playing in a dome, his numbers down, sharing the field here from being a tight end, basically the only tight end in Atlanta. But it's just interesting to see how that move really hasn't worked out for us.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about Austin Hooper because you watch a lot of him, and I think the two things that stand out to you most when you watch him, at least with the Browns, has been when he catches the ball, he has almost like 0 yards after catch.
Yep.
And then I feel like the other thing is just his catch rating has gone down. It's been the lowest it's been at 62.3. And obviously, yes, that could be attested to Baker Mayfield and him. But I think I just watched Austin Hooper drop so many very easy short passes to be like, yeah, that's all on Baker. But there are definitely those instances where, the connection wasn't as strong as you'd hope for. But it feels like when they brought Hooper in, it was like an immediate hit between him and Baker in terms of like the chemistry and everything. But that just didn't develop. Going back to Njoku, though, it's interesting when you look at his career stats because, believe it or not, this was his second best year in terms of stats when you look at it. And, you know, it's tough to be like, hey, you franchise tag a guy for about 10 mil and his stats aren't phenomenal. But if Austin Hooper's gone, does that mean his stats might go up, or how will those fluctuate? Will he have his best year yet? What could that mean for his contract in the future? It's interesting for sure. I'm just, I think Austin Hooper, like you said, we're paying him above 10 million, and his stats coming out of Atlanta were 10 times better than, not 10 times, but they were
Way
certainly way
better.
better than
Yeah.
Njoku. And so that's definitely something that I think needs to be talked about because I feel like, hey, I like Njoku as much, probably not as much as most people do, but I like him enough to argue keeping him here is better than letting him walk. But I definitely need to see, and Jeff and I have already exchanged messages in terms of like, if he produces like he did last year, then there's no way he gets a contract extension. But you would hope that if Austin Hooper is gone, like we said, we don't know that's happening for sure, but with more guys leaving, potentially Jarvis, Odell, Hooper, he's got to step up at some point, and hopefully he has his best season yet. But definitely something that has been in the cards for a while.
Well, yeah, we've already agreed that if Hooper's on the roster, we're not understanding this move a whole lot. I'm not understanding having the tight end room, even with the small amount of money that Harrison Bryant's making still on his rookie deal, making what, 25, 26, 27 million. So we're assuming Hooper is a goner just based on numbers and salary, just facts about the salary. But I don't know, man. I think they like how he blocks. I think that they like that they drafted him. I know that's a weird thing where we don't know what this front office, different front office from when he was drafted. He likes the city. It's been a big turnaround for him. A couple 12, 18 months ago, he was wanting out and he wasn't really interested in being here. So Andrew Berry worked his magic on that front. I think what is interesting here is that a lot of people thought he would still be with us, but I wasn't putting a whole lot of stock in the franchise tag being the first option. I thought that he might get a multi-year deal, so it's definitely an interesting nuance for him to only be back on 1 year, kind of like a really expensive prove it deal. We know that Andrew Berry likes doing that on a cheaper level, whether it be with the D tackles this year, Anthony Walker this year. He's done that before. But just coming back for 1 year, it was not what I expected, which is an interesting way to start the offseason. I floated some ideas to you recently because I'm not that high on Njoku. Like I said, I know he blocks well, but I don't think he's going to be worth the 11 million, especially if Hooper sticks around, which we've agreed on. But if he's the sole tight end one, I think that's going to be his numbers should ultimately go up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the part about this that we have forgotten is that Steven Carlson, who did get injured earlier this season, is a very good blocking tight end. And so I feel like they're hoping that they get more production out of Njoku and Bryant in the receiving game, and that way they can just bring Carlson. And Carlson's not a bad, reception tight end, but I just don't expect much out of him in comparison to those other two. The other thing that we've floated around between the two of us is going out and drafting someone. I think drafting someone was always in the cards. However, I think you could have probably leveled it out to between rounds 4 and 7 that we'd go after a tight end. But now, who knows? Maybe late third or maybe that early 4th pick. Who knows? But it's definitely something that I think we'll be keeping an eye on even more so. And hopefully, when we break down a little bit more of the combine film, we'll get into what we saw and what we liked out of some tight end prospects as we will with other prospects as well. So, Jeff, one other thing that I wanted to know, I did read a tweet out there, and I don't know how much of this there is, a lot of thought that the tight end free agency room was booming, that there was a lot of guys to go after. Was there anyone in particular that you would have maybe liked to go after that would have had a little less money than Njoku and Hooper?
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up because I was kind of I didn't know if I wanted to share this because of, just it's already happened. The tag is on Njoku, so it's kind of a moot point at this point in the game. But as soon as I saw the news that the New York Giants were releasing Kyle Rudolph, who I think made like $5 or $6 million for them last year, had a terrible year. I think he was injury prone. He didn't really play a whole lot, but someone who was in Kevin Stefanski's offensive system in Minnesota, my primary thought was cut Hooper, let Njoku walk, pay Kyle Rudolph, $6 million, $7 million, whatever it'd be, save, $4 or $5 million on that front. If you're not tagging Njoku, keep Bryant and then draft a tight end in the 2nd or 3rd round. I know that probably will be unpopular. A lot of people like Njoku, but I thought that was, if it wasn't going to be the tag or give Njoku a multi-year deal, which I knew was going to be the primary pursuit from Andrew Berry, I kind of liked that idea that I just made up on the spot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of guys that I'm looking at right now in free agency that there are guys that have produced good numbers, and then there are guys that might be projects, but it's weird because you thought, hey, Austin Hooper was a bona fide, not a bona fide, but a Pro Bowler at one point in his career.
Right.
And there are other guys here that have been great. Zach Ertz, Jimmy Graham. I don't think Gronkowski is going to go play anywhere other than for Tom Brady. So, but yeah, Kyle Rudolph on that list, Eric Ebron on that list, Uzma from Cincinnati, a lot of names,
Wow.
Jared
Didn't
Cook, a
know it was
lot of
that deep.
there's a lot. There's a lot of guys here. Evan Ingram, OJ Howard, Mike Jasicek from Miami. That's a big name there.
Yep.
All of these guys are unrestricted
I think
free
Miami will tag
agents.
him too as well, though.
Right. So there's a lot of names out there. And I guess Andrew Barry just felt like, hey, David Njoku, he's been in the system. He knows what's going on. And, uh, that's really about it.
Really, I mean, it's just another thing. I'm going to circle back to it before we wrap up here. It's just now, if Hooper's gone, let's just assume Hooper's gone, whatever day it is. It's some weird day. I'm going to have to do more research into what the cap means before this date or what it means after this date, because you got the new season date and then you have different cap number dates. But if Austin Hooper is released and he goes somewhere else, and I would say comparable weather wise, because I do think that the weather in Northeast Ohio compared to playing in a dome in Atlanta is a huge difference number wise across the board. You're going to run the ball more. You're not going to pass as much. It's cold. It's tougher to catch the football. But if Hooper went to like another up north team and played pretty well with a different quarterback, it's just another knock on Baker. I don't want to make the whole video out to be like that, but we saw OBJ didn't have a whole huge struggle, adapting to when he figured out the Rams playbook. He's having a great Super Bowl before he re-injured that ACL, but just doesn't look good, after the fact with a lot of these guys. Same way with Jarvis. I'd say the same way. If we get rid of him and he goes somewhere else and has a bounce back year, it's just going to look bad on us as an organization. People are going to be like, they don't respect their players. There's just a lot of contending factors with moves like this.
Yeah, I think it's up in the air because I feel like that could go both ways. If you just let Njoku walk and he had a great season somewhere else,
Correct.
or I feel like it's a double-edged sword almost.
Right.
But you have to take a chance with one guy who I think had a more promising year with probably less snaps than Austin Hooper. That I think is true, but
that's what I would say.
It's definitely something that's up in the air to kind of discuss. But I think overall, as long as Hooper is gone, I'm happy with this move because we did have him for 2 more years, and obviously we will comment on this at a later time when it happens or if it doesn't happen. But I'm happy to have Njoku stay. I've liked him. Although he did cause a little bit of headaches at some point, I think he's come over it and he's been fine since. So, Jeff, anything else before we call this one quits?
Nope, it's early in the off season, but we're gonna keep rolling out with the content. So make sure you're tuned in.
We're just getting started with the Brown season. This is probably where we picked up last year, where we had a ton of fun with it, a lot of combine stuff to get into, and a lot of free agency moves that we'll be reporting on. So make sure you guys are keeping it here. Make sure you guys are subbing, leaving likes, leaving comments. And that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.